Hi, my name is Chloe Rain and I'm 24 years old. I was never supposed to return to the place where my sister disappeared, but some doors once open never close. This is not a ghost story, it's something much worse. It's about a lake that remembers everyone who drowns in it and sometimes gives them back. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share if you want more twisted stories from the edge of the mind. This story is written and edited by Dark Lifeside Diaries. They told me to never go back to Blackpine Lake, not because it was haunted, not because it was cursed, but because it was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your ears ring, where your thoughts get too loud and something beneath the water listens to them. I didn't believe it until I lost my sister there. Her name was Emily and she vanished when I was 17. One moment she was laughing, her toes dipped in the cold water, the next she was gone. No struggle, no splash, just gone. They searched for days, drained half the lake, brought divers in from 3 counties. Nothing, not even a shoe. My parents broke apart. My father drank himself silent. My mother started sleeping in Emily's room with the door open like she'd walk in any second. And me? I left town. I didn't want to carry the lake in my dreams anymore, but 7 years later I got a letter. No return address, no signature, just 6 words on a page I knew I hadn't written. She's still here, come alone. It smelled like algae, like wet wood, like old blood. I tried to burn it, but it wouldn't catch, so I drove back to Blackpine. Nothing had changed. Same crooked trees around the shore, same rusty swing set near the cabin, same fog that didn't lift even by noon. The town was emptier now. A gas station, a bar, sheriff with a face like dry leather who looked at me like I was already dead. The cabin was still ours, though locked, but the key was still hidden under the owl statue on the porch. Inside, dust layered the windows and moths fluttered under the light bulbs. I didn't unpack, I just walked straight to the lake. I told myself I wouldn't go in, that I'd just look, maybe say goodbye again. But when I stepped onto the dock, there she was, Emily, standing waist deep in the water-facing mesh. Didn't look older, not a day, not a minute. Her eyes locked onto mine and she smiled, but it wasn't right. It didn't reach her face. Her skin was pale, waterlogged like paper left in the rain. You came, she said. Her voice was slow, like she had to remember how to use it. I stepped forward, knees shaking. How are you alive? I whispered. She tilted her head. I'm not, she replied, and then I saw them, dozens of faces beneath the water, pale, wide-eyed, watching, waiting. Their lips moved with hers as she said, now it's your turn to stay. I stumbled back from the edge of the dock like gravity had reversed. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. Emily, or whatever that was, just stood there, waist deep in the lake, her arms hanging limp at her sides, eyes never blinking. I wanted to believe it was some elaborate trauma response, a hallucination, a cruel dream wrapped in old guilt, but when I blinked she was still there, still watching me. The faces in the water had sunk back down, but I could feel them under the surface like a weight in my gut. Emily, I whispered again, stepping forward against my better judgment. She didn't respond. Her mouth opened slightly, then moved in perfect sync with mine, mimicking me. When I raised my hand, she raised hers, but not as a twin would, like a reflection. Only the delay was just off enough to make it nauseating. I realized then, this wasn't her trying to reconnect, it was trying to remember how to be her. I backed away, bile rising in my throat. The lake went still, her head tilted back, her mouth widened, and something beneath her, some long black shape, coiled around her legs and pulled her under in one sharp, soundless motion. The water didn't splash, it just swallowed, like it had practiced, like it had done it many times before. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up on the couch in the old cabin, flashlight in one hand and a rusted fire poker in the other, around 2:33. And I heard the dock creak, not from wind, from weight. I peeked through the dusty curtain. She was there again, closer now, standing on the dock, same wet dress, same unmoving eyes, but this time her mouth was open, like she was screaming, though no sound came out. Then she slowly raised her hand and pointed not at me, but at the shed near the woods, the one my dad always kept locked, the one we were told never to go into. Something deep inside me didn't want to obey her, but curiosity had teeth. I went outside, the cold wrapped around me like wet rope. I walked toward the shed, every step heavier than the last. When I reached it, I expected it to be locked, but the padlock had already been snapped open. Inside, it smelled like rot. The light bulb dangled, but didn't work. I lit the flashlight and scanned the room. There were drawings, hundreds of them, childlike sketches on yellowed paper pinned to the walls, the floor, even the ceiling. All of them showed a girl drowning somewhere. Signed, all had different names: Anna, Claire, Renee, Ivy. One at the center of the shed was signed Emily. But what made my blood freeze wasn't just the art, it was the last page folded neatly on a desk with my name Written in red ink, "Chloe, you're next." I turned around to run, and standing in the doorway was Emily, or the thing that wore her face, but now her skin was cracked. Her eyes hollow, her teeth sharpened. She opened her mouth, and from it I heard dozens of voices in unison whisper, "The lake remembers, and so do we." I slammed the shed door shut and ran. I didn't look back. I didn't care if it was Emily or not. Whatever stood in that doorway wasn't human anymore. I could still hear the voices echoing behind me, dozens layered over each other like broken records, whispering my name through her lips. When I reached the cabin, I locked the door, shoved the couch against it, and sat on the floor with my back to the wall. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. My skin smelled like algae. The drawings from the shed were burned into my mind. So many names, so many girls, all of them drawn the same way. Standing in the lake, arms reaching up, eyes empty. The last page, the one with my name, was the worst in the drawing. My mouth was stitched shut with black thread. And in the background, something watched from beneath the surface. I knew then this wasn't just about Emily. The lake had taken others, and now it was trying to finish something it started long ago. I had escaped it once, but maybe that wasn't the plan. Maybe it always meant to bring me back and let her go. In my place, I stayed awake until morning. When light finally broke over the tree line, I ventured outside. Emily was gone. The dock was empty. The lake was still, too still. I walked along the shore, searching for signs, footprints, clothes, anything. That's when I saw the stones. Dozens of them, small and smooth, arranged in a perfect spiral just beneath the shallow water leading toward the center of the lake. Like a trail, I followed them, my boots sinking into the muck. The lake grew deeper, the spiral disappearing beneath the surface, but something in me said keep going. When the water reached my knees, I heard humming soft, familiar, Emily's lullaby, the one Mom used to sing to us when we were kids, about stars and rivers and getting home safe. I turned slowly, and there she was again, standing on the dock, dry hair combed, eyes clear, but something was off. She waved. I didn't move. Then she pointed toward the woods, not the shed this time, but deeper. The old campground we hadn't visited since we were kids. I remember we buried something out there, a shoebox maybe full of letters and childhood junk. We called it our sister secret. I hadn't thought about it in years. I took the trail toward the trees. The air was thick with silence. Birds didn't chirp, leaves didn't rustle. It felt like walking through a dream. One that remembered me before I did. When I reached the clearing, the ground was already disturbed, like someone had just dug it up. And sitting in the dirt was the shoebox, same color, same stickers we placed as kids. My heart ached just looking at it. I opened it slowly. Inside were waterlogged photos, tiny drawings, and folded notes. One was from Emily, written in her child handwriting. "If anything ever happens to me, don't come looking, promise." My hands went cold. I remembered this letter. Now she made me swear. I even pinky promised, but I'd broken that promise. And now the lake wanted payment. Behind me, a branch snapped. I turned quickly. Emily stood at the edge of the clearing, only now her smile was too wide, her fingers too long. "You broke it," she whispered. "Now you finish it." Then she opened her mouth, and black water spilled out, dripping from her tongue. Her eyes, her fingers, she walked forward step by step, and the ground beneath her grew wet. "You were never meant to leave," she said. "Only one of us was." And from behind the trees, other girls began to step out, dripping wet, hollow-eyed, and all wearing my face. I wanted to scream, but my throat locked up the moment I saw their faces, not just one or two, but at least a dozen versions of me, soaking wet, barefoot, walking toward me in silent unison. Some were my age, some looked younger, one maybe 12 or 13 dragged her leg like it was broken, another had bruises up her arms, but the worst one, her eyes were missing entirely, just black empty sockets that wept lake water. They surrounded the clearing slowly, like a ritual they performed. Before, behind them, Emily still stood calm, watching. Her voice cut through the silence. "You remembered the promise, but you still came. That's why it's your turn now." I shook my head. "This isn't real. This is grief, trauma, and hallucinating." No, she interrupted, her tone flat. "You forgot what this lake is. It doesn't take randomly, it chooses." She walked forward closer now, and I noticed something strange about her reflection in a puddle beside her foot. It wasn't hers, it was mine, but not how I look now, pale, lifeless, lips blue. "The lake doesn't drown people," she said softly. "It treats them." I backed away, heart hammering in my chest. "Then take me," I spat, my voice cracking. "If that's what it wants, take me and let her go." But Emily shook her head. "You still don't get it. I'm just not the version you want." She looked down at the muddy shoebox in my hand. "You broke the promise and came looking. That's the only way this works. One sister lives, one sister becomes the call." My mind reeled. Becomes the what? The call, she said again, the reason the next girl returns. That's the rule, that's the loop. Suddenly every version of me in the circle whispered the same word at once, loop. The ground beneath me trembled, softening like it had turned to liquid. I dropped the box and tried to run, but my legs sank into mud up to my knees. The more I fought, the heavier it got. The versions of me stared silent now, their mouths opening as lake water spilled from them like tears. And Emily, she just knelt beside me. You shouldn't have come back, Chloe, she said gently. But now that you have to choose. She reached into her dress pocket and pulled out a broken locket, the one Mom gave us when we were kids. One half was missing. The side with my photo. Stay here, she whispered. Take my place, let me go. I've been here too long, the lake is hungry. And if I say no? I asked, voice shaking. Her eyes turned black, her teeth sharpened, her hand gripped my wrist like iron. Then we both stay, she hissed. And the lake will find someone else. I looked around at the circle of drowned Chloes. Horror, the grief, the silence, and in that moment I realized they had all chosen wrong, chosen late or not at all, and now I was the next link. The lake never kills, it converts. I closed my eyes and the mud crept higher to my waist, to my ribs, to my chest. My heart slowed, my breath caught, but I whispered, I'll stay, and just like that everything stopped. The second I said, I'll stay, everything shifted, not like a storm, not like a nightmare, but like acceptance. The ground beneath me hardened, the versions of me began to dissolve, not violently, but like mist rising from warm water. Their faces softened as if relieved, finally freed from the purgatory of indecision. Emily stood still, blinking like someone waking from a deep sleep. Her teeth were no longer sharp, her eyes turned soft again, just like I remembered when we used to fall asleep, whispering secrets under the covers. You don't know what you've done, she said, voice trembling, but thank you. I nodded, even though I didn't fully understand it. All I knew was the pressure that had been building in the woods. The water the mirrors of memory had released. The lake had been fed, and now I was part of it. The light changed, the forest no longer looked dead. The trees breathed again. I stood expecting to feel mud still clinging to my legs, but they were dry. The shoebox lay open at my feet, empty now. The drawings had vanished. Emily reached out and touched my hand, and for the first time in 7 years, it felt real, warm, alive. And just like that, she turned and walked back toward the cabin like she had a second chance at a life she'd once lost. I watched her until the trees swallowed her silhouette. Then I turned back toward the lake. It looked different now, still yes, but deeper, like it knew me. I walked down to the dock, the same one where it had all started, and sat at the edge. The sky had gone completely gray, no wind, no birds. Just me and the quiet hum beneath the surface. I dipped my toes into the water, expecting cold, but it was warm, comforting, like an embrace. And then I saw her, not Emily, me. My reflection stood tall in the water, even though I was sitting. She wore a dress I didn't own with bare feet and eyes that glowed faintly silver. She smiled. Now you wait, she said, her mouth never actually moving, but the words echoing inside my skull, until she comes. Who? I asked aloud. The next one, my reflection said. The lake calls in pairs. That's when I felt it, a name, a memory not mine, a girl named Isla, 22, from a town 2 counties over. Her sister went missing last fall near Blackpine. They never found a body. I saw flashes of her dreams, water dripping in her hallway, a song playing through her vents, footsteps behind her at night. The call had already begun. I stood slowly. My body moved like mine, but it wasn't mine anymore. I was an echo, now a memory on repeat. My purpose wasn't to haunt, it was to warn, but only those who came looking would hear me, and once they stepped into the water, the choice would be theirs. I walked back to the tree line as twilight crept in. The forest didn't feel threatening anymore. It felt like home, the lake whispered. With every step I took, one must stay, one must return, and for the first time, I understood what it meant. I had become the voice in the letter. I had become the reflection in the water, had become the reason someone else would return my name. Is Isla Marin, and I shouldn't have come here, but when your sister vanishes without a trace, the silence becomes louder than any warning. No one believed me when I said she never would have drowned. She was afraid of water. She never even learned to swim, and yet there her car was parked neatly at the edge of Blackpine. Wait, keys still inside, phone in the passenger seat, doors locked from the inside. That was 3 months ago. Last week I got the letter. No stamp, no name, just she's still here, come alone, and I did it. As strange, the cabin didn't feel abandoned when I stepped inside. There was dust, sure, and the air was stale, but it smelled lived in, like someone had just stepped out and would be back in 5 minutes. The bedroom door creaked open on its own. The mirror above the dresser had a single fingerprint on it, mine. except I hadn't touched it yet. The lake outside looked still unnaturally, so like a sheet of glass waiting to break as dusk settled over. The trees I walked to the dock, and that's when I saw her, not my sister, a girl older than me by a couple years. Soaking wet hair clinging to her face, wearing a pale gray dress, her eyes locked on mine, and somehow she knew me. She opened her mouth. Isla, she said, you came. I froze. I hadn't told anyone where I was going. Who are you? I whispered. The girl tilted her head. I was Chloe once, and then I saw my sister, standing just behind her in the shallows, a live hole. Smiling, but not right, not her. Eyes were glassy, her skin just a shade too pale, and when she raised her hand, she mirrored me, a delayed reflection. That's when Chloe stepped forward and said the words that shattered everything. You have to choose. I ran back to the cabin, back to the car, but the road was gone, replaced by water trees submerged in a way that defied physics. This place wasn't just cursed, it was alive. I screamed, cried, begged, but the only voice that answered was my own, echoing off the lake like a warning I hadn't listened to in time. And then Chloe appeared again, not threatening, just tired, sad. It doesn't stop unless someone stays, she said. That's the rule. One returns, one remains. That's how the lake remembers who it's taken. I backed into a corner. I'm not choosing, I said, sobbing. You already did, Chloe whispered. You came. The dock creaked again, and I saw my sister this time, really, her crying, mouthing the words, please go. And in that moment I understood she had been given a chance to leave because Chloe had stayed, and now it was my turn. I walked toward the water. My sister screamed behind me, but I didn't look back. I met Chloe at the edge of the lake. She touched my face gently. Thank you, she said, and just like that, I felt the lake accept me. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. This story was written and edited by Dark Life. Side Diaries, tell us in the comments, would you stay to save someone or leave them behind? Have you ever heard your own voice in a dream calling you to a place you've never been? What do you think the lake really is?